Avoiding toxic people and behaviors. One of the most unfortunate things about modern society is that so many of us grow up in toxic situations that we don't even recognize as toxic. They affect us in ways we may be blind to, and this can even cause us to perpetuate these situations in the future. A good example of this is growing up in an abusive home, where the abuse just seems like a normal part of everyday life. But in reality, these behaviors are deeply damaging and invalidating to your sense of self. However, because you don't realize that you are even being abused, you tolerate it. And it is even possible to pick up these behaviors and become toxic to somebody else. Some parents have learned toxic parenting techniques from their own parents and see nothing wrong with them in the slightest. This can just perpetuate the cycle of abuse and undermine the confidence of those you are trying to nurture. Toxic behaviors can be defined as behaviors that diminish others and undermine their sense of self-confidence or self-worth. This can include physical, emotional, and verbal abuse, manipulation, and coercion. You may find that you have a friend who is interested in nothing but their own issues and will undermine your problems by saying, "That's okay, this happened to me and it was so much worse." You may find yourself in situations where people who don't show you respect or who criticize and poke fun at you for no good reason. You may find yourself in a relationship with someone who takes far more than they would ever be willing to give. Then, when you act like they do, they get furious at you and call you selfish. These types of toxic behaviors are common, and whether we are used to them or not, they cause us stress. Stress is a funny thing. Even if we are experiencing it, we may not always recognize it or consider it a big deal. We may experience stress as stomach aches, headaches, or general anxiety when we are around someone else. Stress is not always a cut and dry thing to experience. Sometimes we become like frogs who sit in water as it slowly comes to a boil, not realizing the danger we are in until it is sadly too late. Sometimes our stress comes from being a toxic person who is driving other people away. It is very important to be honest with ourselves and to receive feedback from others when they are affected by our words or actions. If someone has told you that something you have done has hurt them, try not to be mad or to find a way to blame them for your behavior. Instead, take the time to think through the feedback and consider ways you could have dealt with the situation more calmly. And if you feel genuine remorse for the way you have hurt someone else, don't hesitate to apologize to them and let them know that you are reflecting on your behavior and trying to find a way to deal with their issue in a healthy way that may benefit the both of you. It can be easy to become defensive if you don't realize that you are affecting others in a negative way because of your own toxic traits. All of us have ways that we can improve, and to be truthful, it can be really difficult to accept negative feedback about ourselves without feeling emotional about it. We do not like to consider ourselves to be the types of people who might hurt someone else, even if that hurt inflicted isn't intentional. Sometimes we get angry at the wronged party for pointing out how they have been wronged instead of taking a step back to view ourselves objectively. We are so caught up in trying to do the best we can that we feel it is unfair for others to tell us that we have done something incorrectly. If our intention wasn't to hurt someone else, then they must be wrong, right? Wrong. We may just need to think harder about ourselves and the way we react to others. We may need to compare our behavior to the behavior of toxic influences in the past, so we are able to identify where someone else is coming from and why you may have acted in a harmful way toward them. If you fear you may have toxic behaviors, don't worry. You can train yourself out of them and learn to be better. It doesn't mean that you are a bad person. It means that you didn't learn how to have an appropriate reaction to something that maintains the respect and integrity of all parties. Instead of getting defensive, get quiet. Listen to what others are saying about you and learn from it. And if you don't care to change your behavior, then don't. Just know that your behavior affects people and it will have consequences on those that you choose to deal with in the future. Prepare for that. If you find it difficult to remove yourself from situations with toxic people, ask yourself why. Are you the kind of person who has little confidence? Is it difficult for you to even identify toxic behaviors? Why do you feel you need to hold on to the toxic situation in your life? Is there something tying you to it that you can't control? If so, is there some way to limit your exposure to the toxic person or situation? You would not believe the weight that comes off of your shoulders from finally freeing yourself from a toxic situation. Everybody deserves that peace of mind, and you can have it too. You don't have any obligation to serve someone toxic. They will do everything in their power to make you feel that you do, but you don't. Don't let them manipulate you into believing that is the case. Treat these toxic situations as learning experiences so that you can begin to understand where your boundaries are and what you need to do to enforce them whenever necessary. Do not be afraid to set your boundaries and maintain them. It is one of the most important things you can do to maintain a stress-free life.